Well, I think one of the big reasons that I wanted to come into the case teaching is I'm kind of like wrapping up my PhD journey and my training, right? And I've been a student uh, enjoying or participating in the cases, right, in the classroom, right? But I don't know. I mean, I don't have a huge expertise on how to develop or design the class around the case, right? So I think that would be number one, right? If I'm going through specific content or theories, right? How can I kind of like merge that hard content of theories or whatever we're looking in the lecture with the case, right? So one is kind of like design the class around the content or theory that I want to communicate with the students. And the other thing would be kind of like best practices around of uh, facilitating the case, right? I know the professor that is kind of using the case method is a little bit of a guide, right? So how can you best guide the discussion and kind of like make those good questions or interactions flourish in the classroom? Yes, I think there's a couple of reasons. I think one would be I remember when I was in high school, right, and my dad was training was getting kind of like was in an executive program, and it was completely in Mexico, right, based on the case method. And I was in high school, right. I still was kind of like figuring out what was gonna be my thing on college and the university. And he came to the house with all his cases, right? And I was looking at him reading the cases, and he always shared with us in the table, like, "Oh, I'm reading this case about X company." And then I started being more curious and more curious, and then he started sharing me some of his cases, right? So I think since very young, right, I think I got like very interested in the way cases shared information and how even the case made you think about a situation, an issue, a problem, right, a challenge that a company faced. Um, so I think that kind of like in a way, very young, shaped my mind in a particular way of thinking. And then fast forward, I go to get my degree in the university and my master's, and I was able some professors use the case method, right? And I really enjoyed it. So I think from my perspective as a student, it was a great way to learn, right? And to kind of like develop critical thinking. And on the other side, I think once I decided to kind of like go through this route of a professor or getting my PhD, that's kind of like if I'm teaching, that's a way that I want to teach, right? I want to use the case method in my classroom. So I was like, I need to really know how to do it, right? So I think that those are kind of like why I pursue this scholarship. I mean, I'm kind of like a newbie, right? I'm a rookie to say some. Like I've been teaching a little bit, but I'm still kind of like wrapping up my degree, and and it's clear that delivering a good session with cases, it requires kind of like a level of expertise, right? Or at least you can like feeling comfortable with it. So I think one is, and I think I feel comfortable with my kind of like presentation skills and kind of like leading a classroom, but then knowing the right, I would say, synchrony to develop the case in the classroom, right? When to ask the right questions, maybe when to pivot, and if the discussion is not going through kind of like the way. So it's kind of like and it's harder, right? Because it's a lot of like reading the crowd, reading the room, right? But I think maybe while growing to this teacher scholarship, as I said in the first question, I learned some of the best practices, right? And some of good methods to read the crowd, understand your audience. And another one that I would say is how to get what is a good way I'm a little bit concerned of what is a good way or approach to develop this feedback loop between your students and you teaching the case method, right? What is the right way to start seeing like, oh, they really like this case, or they really like the way I'm teaching this case, versus maybe I should change this part of whatever question or prompt I'm using, right? How that's a little bit of, because again, I'm always thinking, and maybe it's because I still feel more on the student side than in the professor. I'm always thinking on the student experience, right? And how I can deliver something that they can extract the most value out of it and have an amazing experience, learning experience, right? So I'm always thinking on, well, my concern is how can I make my case scholarship, my teaching, the best way or the best experience for my students. So I think it will be around that on trying to understand what are the best techniques or ways to read the room, and kind of like know when to pivot or adapt your teaching or delivery of the case as necessary.